So thank you for coming. It's my pleasure to be here. Mary contacted me, it was months ago, and you've had a baby since then, a grandbaby. This is how rumors start. Thank you very much. As Mary said, I am a medical social worker, and I've been doing this work for 35, almost 40 years. And I've gathered some general knowledge about a lot of things. In particular, people are calling the company I work for help sometimes with housing changes. But what we've learned is that housing, when people want to move or they think they need to move, it's often code for something else, which might be moving will solve all my problems, or I need to offload my house, or I've had a physical event, or I have a condition that means I can't manage the same living situation I've been in all along. So this presentation, or this group of information, has to do with a lot of questions that I hope you will be asking yourselves. So I am not here just talking about different housing options. I want to cause you to think broader than that. Let me just explain. So the handouts, you have a housing directory. And for those of you who have pens, so Arlene had asked already this morning, is this just Minneapolis? Well, no, this is the whole 5 to 7 county metro area. But you're going to want to make note of a few points in this directory. This is put out by the Volunteers of America, Minnesota. And it's kind of our main tool. On page 35, note that it has the metro area broken into 4 quadrants. This area is in the northwest quadrant. All right, so that's the first thing that's important. That's the map of the quadrants. Starting on page 43 is information on independent living, and that is then broken down into the 4 quadrants. So I just want you to know that, or this is going to be really confusing. Assisted living information starts on page 103. And then the last thing I wanted to note is affordable housing and subsidized housing starts on page 131. And this directory does include a lot of information about the Anoka area, but also about services and supports to help people stay independent in their own homes. And independent doesn't mean being alone or doing it alone. Oftentimes people need help to maintain their independence. So that's just an introduction to this directory. There is also, I have some PowerPoint slides, and then there is a list of resources I've put together that are kind of tip of the iceberg for a variety of different topics. And then also there's a handout with crucial questions to ask yourself, broken down into the same categories that the slides will be in. So financial, legal, preferences, and so forth. And thank you, Pastor Mike, for passing out the handouts to everyone. All right, moving on. I'm going to try and save, I forgot where I'm supposed to click. There we go. Okay, here are the areas. Financial, legal run together. Values, preferences, and healthcare. We're going to talk about this. And is it okay if we save questions to the end, since this is being recorded? Okay. If I'm technologically challenged. There we go. Okay. First issue, financial. I broke financial and legal apart a little bit. This is like, okay, Captain Obvious, we know these things. But I just want to emphasize that life is expensive. Now, y'all know that as mostly older adults in here. I think I'm 68, also an older adult. Good morning. And here's a little sidebar. Older adults don't want to be called seniors and they don't want to be called elderly. So if you're learning, if you care about the politically correct term, it's older adult. Surprise. All right, so, so you're saying maybe you don't want to be an adult?
No.
Oh.
You got that right.
Okay. In the financial realm, of course, you want to maintain your independence in a place that fits. And I know that a lot of people have homes they've been in for decades that do not fit well any longer. And so I well understand the need to move when where you live doesn't fit you any longer for a lot of different reasons. In the financial realm, this is not a do-it-yourself project unless you are a financial advisor or an elder law attorney who works in the area of estate planning, maybe guardianship, conservatorship, depending on if you're working with a person with disabilities. So the laws governing, and we'll get into more of that, but they're the legal realm and the financial realm. Any big changes like this, and I think as we go forward in general as older adults, we need experts, right, to help us navigate as things are changing. So I'll talk a little bit about when help is needed for personal care. All right, so health insurance. Do you all know we're in the middle of open enrollment? And have you been getting scary letters from your insurance plans? Okay, so I don't have time to talk about that. That's another whole talk. But if you need help, get to the senior linkage line or your local, so the senior linkage line through the local area agency on aging. In the metro, that's called Trellis. In central Minnesota, there's a Central Minnesota Council on Aging. Get to someone with help, someone who's a state insurance counselor, not necessarily an insurance broker, but someone who can answer your questions for your particular situation. Okay, the last one, the meaning of money to you. Again, it sounds like a Captain Obvious thing, like we want it and we want to save it and we want to have enough. But I have discovered through the years that a lot of people hesitate to spend, even though they need to be spending because it's important to them. This is just one example. It's important to them to have a legacy to leave to their heirs. So to them, that's the reigning factor of how they value money. So if you are in a position of being an older adult or being someone who is caring for older adults, or if you are an older adult yourself, just think about this. What is the meaning of money to you? Because I guarantee you're going to have to spend more than you're comfortable spending. So again, obvious, but something to think about and not to discount. All right, legal. So, again, some obvious things here. Wills, trusts, estate planning vehicles. I did put on the resource list some elder law attorneys who we refer to often and who we trust in terms of integrity. I know there are some in this area. There are some everywhere. I didn't put any particular to the Anoka area, but do your homework and talk to friends and find out who they like for the legal documents. For sure, you want to think about, so the fourth bullet, who will speak for you if you become unable, is critical. And sometimes you need a document to say that. If there are any solo seniors in here, people who are not married, people who do not have family members involved in their situations or their care, or maybe you do, but you don't want your family members involved in your decision making, you want to be sure you have documents that state your wishes in the event you become unable to speak for yourself. And that really, any one of these items could be a talk all of itself. So much content. Who will manage your household financials if you become unable? So there are different things you need to do for different purposes. Powers of attorney and healthcare directives. And then of course you might say, well, I've got it. I did a will, or I have a trust, and I'm done. Well, I'm here to tell you you're not done until you've done the additional documents that name people. So a healthcare directive used to be called a living will. That is pertinent to the healthcare the healthcare realm. A power of attorney has to do with business and financial, who will take care of your stuff. I mean, even if you have a short-term event, you fall and hit your head, or you have surgery, or you have a stroke, and now you're in recovery, who's going to keep the household going? Who's going to keep the bills paid, etc.? All right. Oops, I wanted to mention, going back, health insurance. So of course we're seeing lots and lots of ads on television with zero monthly premium plans for all this fabulous stuff. There is a cost to have insurance, and don't get stuck just looking at the premium. And there's a cost to use insurance. So those zero premium plans are the ones that advertise. If you were my client, I would tell you which ones not to go with, but I'm not going to do that in this situation. But that's part of what we do as care managers, is tell people, here are some to avoid. But just be careful, because when you get into the hospital, or if you need rehabilitation, it's going to cost you. All right, moving ahead. Values. Okay, this is kind of critical. What is quality of life for you? What are your hopes and dreams, fears and worries, and your goals for living? So who's heard of Atul Gawande, the author? He wrote a book called Being Mortal. He's a surgeon. The book Being Mortal, I think I put that on my resource list as an excellent book, has worked hard to help people be better patients in the healthcare system. Better patients come with having done some work about what matters to you and what you value, what you want, what you don't want, what you're afraid of, what would be your hoped for outcome. And these are questions to ask yourself at any time you're going to the doctor, or you've got something scary, potentially scary brewing, or you're having a routine whatever, colonoscopy or whatever. And then you have to think, well, what am I going to do based on the results? So it's worth thinking about what matters to you in general with healthcare, and then also as we think about housing. Okay, so again, what is the meaning of money to you? That if I've learned anything through the decades, it is the different ways people value money. What they will spend on, what they won't spend on, how they will neglect their own needs because they refuse to spend. And then I've also met some people whose loved ones are a source of income for them, and I do struggle with that. I get myself into moral distress when I meet people who are assuming they're going to inherit a huge bunch of money, and so they won't spend it on their loved ones whose money it is. Anyway, I could go on and on. Okay, so now thinking about housing, so where you're living now, where you might be considering moving to. Do you want to live alone? Do you want to be in a single family home, a villa home, or a congregate setting? Where, how big, how small, near nature, near city life? I need to say that I know there are housing providers popping up. Is it happening up in Anoka too, that on every corner, on every open lot, there are some big, some smaller, but they are, how do I say this nicely? All the glitters is not gold, and it's on you all to do your own homework about the importance of these things, your preferences, what matters to you, if you were going to start touring housing places. I will say more about that, but you can see, do you want to, is it a value to you to be close to your clinic or your hospital? If you're doctoring, if you have frequent appointments, then you want to stay close to your healthcare providers, presumably. You might also want to be close to family members, depending on what you've got going on. You might want to be with like-minded people. We see this a lot in the metro. I can name you buildings or housing providers where there are a lot of retired university people, university professors and university staff, or sometimes people are like, fussy. I don't want fussy. I don't need chandeliers. But they know what they want. And so getting in with people who are like-minded with what you value. Again, to the point, these housing providers are marketing, I think, to the baby boomers, mainly. So, and lovely people. I'm not disparaging anyone, but I've met some buggers. So, yeah, I guess. All right. All right, healthcare. We're going to spend some time on this because this is critical. People tend to overestimate their abilities and underestimate what they need help with. And these things change too. So I let my hip go for 8 years before I had it replaced, and I didn't realize how bad things were because it took 8 years, and pretty soon I could walk, but I couldn't get in and out of my car. So these things creep up on you. Things to consider: current needs for help and anticipated needs. Your understanding of your overall health situation. So that bottom sentence, medications, mentation, mobility, and what matters, that's the big four. There's a national movement by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. They are trying to get the 4 M's into clinics. I think Allina has a pretty big presence in this area, right? Mm-hmm. I think there are some Allina clinics that are embracing this, which means they're trying to be age friendly. And that means when you come in for an appointment, maybe you'll get lucky and have a provider who will ask you, how is it going? And we'll ask you specifically about, okay, so your medications, how are you managing those? And how is that going for you? And not just affording medications, which we know is another whole discussion, but are you taking them the way they're supposed to be taken? Not just throwing them in a little fishbowl and grabbing a handful twice a day, which when you meet with pharmacists, you find out a lot of things. Mentation. So we know that there are changes that accompany aging. Dementia is not a normal part of aging, but it does happen to many of us. So it is what it is. And that's a conversation to have with your healthcare provider if you have concerns about that. But I guess be courageous and be honest. Okay, mobility. Are you needing assistive devices for walking, or have you maybe you can't do stairs any longer the way you used to be? So you're looking for the curb cuts, and you're looking for the places with elevators, because you can't walk the same way you used to be able to. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind, of course. More Captain Obvious. All right, now this seems like a rabbit trail, but it's important because So do we have anybody in here who works in healthcare or is retired from healthcare? Okay, so perhaps you're familiar with the concept ADL, activities of daily living, and IADL, instrumental activities of daily living. All right, so the reason it's important to have knowledge of this, of these terms and of these activities is because this is how you are being judged when you're interfacing, when you're in the healthcare system. If you have an event, big or little, or maybe you're going into your primary care provider and saying, I need a handicap parking permit because I can no longer walk distances. Maybe it's cardiovascular disease that's slowing you down, or meaning that you need a handicap sticker. But it's not nice, but I've been in healthcare my whole career. This is how you will be judged or assessed, is on what you can do for yourself and what you need help with. The ADLs, activities of daily living, are the biggies. So these are getting yourself in and out of bed, getting yourself to the commode, taking care of yourself in the bathroom, bathing yourself, walking, eating and grooming. So those are kind of the big things that you need to be able to do independently, or if you're not independent in those areas, you're going to need some help. And a lot of people receive help. Sometimes it's at their housing provider. Sometimes they're paying someone to come into their home, which is perfectly acceptable. And I know it's expensive, but it's less expensive than assisted living housing is. Okay, so then IADLs, so cooking, shopping, managing medications, housework and laundry, driving, managing finances, and using the phone. Another example there would be following a recipe, or putting together a grocery list, remembering what you need, not buying too much, having on hand what you need. That's where people get hung up oftentimes, where we'll start to see, especially managing medications and managing finances. That's where, if this is happening to you or a loved one, then it's time to start thinking about getting help. Get yourself assessed for sure, but also thinking about, okay, what's my plan moving forward? To be sure, the stories I could tell about people's finances who are just in such a muddle, or loved ones who have been scammed out of tens of thousands of dollars by the scams that are out there, the evil people that are preying on especially older adults. So when that happens, it's a red flag, right? That something's got to change. Okay, so does that kind of I hope that kind of makes sense. That if there's one thing about the healthcare landscape I want to be sure you take away, it is this. Be aware of your own ADL and IADL status. Okay, so if you're looking at a housing situation or needing to change housing or needing to bring services in because there are two of you with separate needs, separate wants, that's challenging, trying to get everybody what they need together in one setting and at an affordable price. So limited finances, truly limited finances, there's a lot of help available that people don't know about, that they don't seek to receive. And so not a bad idea to connect again with the senior linkage line, or I'm not sure, I hear good things about Anoka County Social Services. Generally speaking, there might be social workers, there might be departments within the adult services at the county that can help you to know, do I qualify for some extra help? And a lot of people do that aren't using it. So, all right, so a healthcare crisis may determine your options, such as where one can live. So again, obvious, but in as much as we can plan ahead or be ready when the crisis happens or when a crisis happens or a big change, that's what we want to do, is be ahead of it. Because, okay, I'll give an extreme example. If someone has dementia with what are called behavioral expressions, so when someone becomes unable to avoid maybe yelling, maybe striking out. You see ads on TV for some drugs that are supposed to help that. That kind of a situation, if somebody's dementia is manifesting in that way, then housing providers are going to be extra cautious about having somebody come in, even to a memory care unit. So that's part of the housing landscape is people with needs, whether it's physical or mental and emotional, you will be assessed for appropriateness for the unit or the type of housing that you may want or may need. So again, to the point of don't wait. All right, caregivers, caregivers, that's a whole talk in itself. We know, and I'm gonna pick on men, it's been my observation that men define themselves by what they do. And so and women define themselves by who they are, and that's a broad brushstroke statement, I realize. But men get into trouble more often than women when they are caregiving for their loved ones because they don't take care of themselves. And they don't identify that I need help, I am drowning, I can't do this myself. And when you don't take care of yourself as a caregiver, it's the put your own oxygen mask on first concept. When you don't take care of yourself, and it's your choice, you can not take care of yourself, but then do plan for your loved one who might be dependent on you for care and to be there and to help keep them oriented and getting through the day safely. So when I'm working with people and they say, well, we're just fine, we don't need anything because he takes care of me, well, but I'm watching him and I'm watching him crumple under the burden of trying to keep it all together, run the household, cook, get the groceries, get to appointments, help with everything. So there's my sexist statement for the morning. All right, so a few crucial questions. These are also on one of your handouts, but you gain power. So I'm a social worker, right? I'm all about autonomy and empowering you to manage yourself in as much as you can, helping you get the resources and services you need to manage. So you need to understand, what is your health situation? Do I understand my financial situation? I am guilty of this. My husband manages our finances and I'm like a little clueless. And we're in agreement, so we're married 46 years and it's worked so far, but if something happened to him, I'd be well and truly in a lot of trouble. So my confession. Again, what is the meaning of money to me? How do I want to live the rest of my life? Quality of life to me. What happens if I do nothing? So I like this quote. Indecision may or may not be my problem. But it's true, right? And it's a comfortable place to be. I know, because I would rather, I'm like, ooh, I'm comfortable right here. It's the devil I know instead of the devil I don't know. So I'm just coasting along with indecision. So I just want to say, not to decide is to decide. So to not make decisions or not plan ahead, then the chips will fall. And I've met people through my whole career that just will say, well, I don't care, that's somebody else's problem. I'm not going to clean out my house because That's my kid's problem. I had to clean out my parents' house, and so I'm not doing anything now. Oh, that's another talk, right? Like getting rid of our junk, and nobody wants it. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to say, if you make that decision, if that's kind of the way you live, oh, I'll just let the chips fall, then it is going to determine your pathway forward to some extent. Decisions will be made for you. There are often fewer options when a crisis occurs, and I'm talking about avoidable crisis. Or avoidable decline, preparing for a decline. Crisis happens all the time, and that's unavoidable. And then we're praying and we're waiting to see how things evolve, right? And what's gonna happen next. But I'm talking about, in as much as you can plan, do. Wrong assumptions are made about who will pay for what. I run into this a lot. People just assume I've got a good Medicare plan and they're going to pay for everything. And maybe some of you have experienced, no, they're not. And Medicare has its own eligibility criteria, and you may perhaps, so I have people I've worked with who they continue to need a lot of personal care, help in the bathroom, help showering, help getting dressed. When that is the way they're living, Medicare doesn't pay for that. That's on you. Medicare does pay for that help in the immediate time after an event, like a surgery or a heart attack or a stroke, or maybe you have an event and now you're needing home oxygen. Medicare will pay for a nurse for a little while to come out, a little while being maybe 2 weeks, so not a long time at all. And then you're left with, well, but mom still needs help in the bathroom, and she's not safe in the shower alone. And so that's the biggest example I can think of. Just be sure you understand who's paying for what. Does anyone here have long-term care insurance policies? Okay, good. If you don't have it, it's too late. They're not paying out, and it is their job. I'm sorry if people are in insurance here, but it seems to me it's their job to avoid paying out, because it's just miserable to get them to pay the daily benefit or whatever. So, but I'm glad you have it, because it can be helpful depending on the company, depending on how long you have it. The old policies, the good old policies from 20 and 30 years ago, they're paying out so much, all the companies figured out, there are 3 main companies, by the way, they've winnowed down, but they figured out, we're paying out too much money. So it's tough. Let's see, ability, I said this already. A lot of people overestimate their abilities. I'm guilty of that. Underestimate needs. And then hoping for the best is good, but it's not a plan. So anyone in business will tell you, well, we're hoping it all comes right. We're hoping for the best. And I'm not here to take away your hope, because it's an important thing, but it's just not a plan. All right. I think I said this before too. These are not do-it-yourself projects. Here's a list of a few. I would say, I've mentioned the elder law attorneys and estate planners. The top 3, 4, definitely the most beneficial. You want someone to help you with your planning, someone who you can trust with your financial picture, with what your goals are, with what you've got coming in, what you've got going out, and especially if you're thinking about changing your living situation. Move managers are fabulous. They're very expensive, but they're really wonderful for helping with moves. So I value them. We work with them a lot. Geriatric care managers, that's what I am. Senior real estate specialists, also very good. They have special training in the situations of, so they, even though they don't know it all and they are not financial advisors, but they know what things to help you look out for. Okay, here's a cheery little thing. Funeral pre-planning. Another important thing to do. Nobody wants to do it, but it's important to do. And you can make your decisions. You can set aside a chunk of money that you're not going to touch that will then help. And especially if your income and assets are of more modest means, and if you think you are going to live longer than your money lasts, that's one thing you want to do ahead of time. Okay, there are more. All right, oops. Okay, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. That's one of my favorites because it takes courage. It takes stick-to-itiveness. It takes patience. I did so I don't usually speak to church groups, but because I was going to speak to you, I am remembering the Jeremiah 29, verse 11 quote, and this is from the Message. I know what I am doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. So, church people and Christian people and Jesus followers, depending on where you all are in that, I can assure you that God's got you. So I know this. My husband is a pastor, so I live a double life. And when you give me a microphone, I can preach. But it's just delightful to talk to a church-based group because you have that extra, the God of the universe who's got your back. So that's important. I think the rest of this is just life is tough, but so are you. Encouragement. In closing, so honest with yourself, that's the hardest thing. I know this personally. Be kind to yourself as you are with others, so be at least as kind to yourself as you are with others. And I tell women who are caregivers, care for yourself at least as much as you're caring for your loved one. Because women have a tendency to put a big X through ourselves and say, I don't matter as much. So my encouragement to you, take care of yourself, acknowledge how hard it will be courageous, get help, and begin thinking about what you want. So those handouts, the list of questions I gave you, I know it's a lot. And you might just shuffle the papers away and they'll get lost and you'll be glad.
Don't. You need them.
Yeah.
Now is the time.
Yeah. So Carolyn is saying, now's the time. So preach it, sister. Yeah.
I've been through this whole process. I've been there.
Okay.
And it was unexpected, and you don't want to wait till that happens. You want to, but the big part was that God was with me through it all.
There you go.
Yeah.
So testifying to the fact that God helped her and she's been through it, and you don't want to.
And if you have any questions, I don't always have the answer, but I will commiserate with you, and I will.
Nice.
I will pray with you if you need help.
Super.
I'm here for
Super. Thank you. Do you have Stephen ministers or befrienders at this? Okay. All right. But lovely people within the congregation maybe, and Mary to organize. She did such a fabulous job. That's the end of my formal presentation. Now, Mary has prepared a clipboard up here. If people want these items emailed to them, she will make that happen, or I don't know which one of us is going to do that. But anyway, there's a list to sign up here with your email address if you would like that. My contact information is on here. I'm not looking for business, I promise. And I am happy to answer questions. If you email me or call me and say, I heard your presentation, help me to know XYZ. I would be happy to get you pointed in the right direction. So, question?
Is there a type of a consumer report thing that tells you which are the insurance companies that we staying away from, as far as we belong to a group, we pay in for future care needs?
Oh, okay.
You know, something like that.
Should I don't know about the recording. I want to be sure everyone can hear your question and that the future, whoever's watching this, should I hand him the microphone? Okay. His question is, if there's a thing like Consumer Reports that gives a report on different insurance companies and to avoid. Call me or email me. No, not tomorrow.
You can do comparisons at the government site to provide some.
Yes, you're right.
Ask lots of questions from lots of people.
So there, you can get a comparison, a side-by-side comparison of different plans and what they pay for. So if you call the senior linkage line and say, I need help with someone to get me the best insurance plan for, these are my doctors, this is my insurance, these are my medications. Be prepared when you call to say what your medications are, how often you take them, and at what dosage. And they can work their magic and they can compare plans side by side. So that is probably, insurance brokers are supposed to be able to do that. I don't know that they have the same depth of knowledge. And the people on the line are state health insurance counselors. They've gone through hours and hours of extra training. They won't tell you, avoid this one that starts with H, or they will say, given the information you've told me, I can tell you this plan covers you, and these are the price-wise. I am not aware of quality checker. There are quality checkers for home cares and for assisted livings. One has started recently. Does that?
Yeah, it leaves me a little at the point wondering, am I paying the right company for what I'm expecting to receive?
Yeah.
Possibly.
So he's asking if he's getting the right value for what he's paying, and the linkage line specialist can do. Call now because it's a busy time, and be prepared. So have your stuff lined up ahead of you, so that the specialist can just look you up on the computer. There is a way to do it yourself if you're really adept at computer, Medicare.gov. I'm not adept at it, but poke around. Call the senior linkage line. Okay.
This is an excellent resource.
Yes.
This is how this saved me when I moved from out of state to this state. Because I needed contacts. I had contacts in my old community. I had no contacts in Anoka.
Yes. So thank you. So this directory does have a lot more information in it than just about housing options. It has all the county contacts. It has the senior linkage line. It has lots of different. It's advertising too. But okay, another question back here.
I just wanted to comment on the broker. There are really good brokers out there that
Yes.
can really line you up right with the insurance that will fit
Yes.
your situation.
Yes.
They'll look up your drugs, they'll
Yes.
look at all of that.
Yes.
And compare, what you anticipate your needs are going to be. So I would.
Yeah, I can give you the name of one, Margaret Wallace. She worked for the same company I work for 15 years. She started her own insurance company. Now she's a Medicare expert and a social worker. So Margaret Wallace, if you go on margaretwallaceinsurance.com, she's fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, so there are good brokers. And there are, some stinkers.
I'm sure they're in it to make money.
So here's a fun fact. There are insurance plans that reimburse brokers more. If the brokers, suggest those plans. Ooh, it grinds my last axe, because that's not, to me, that's not integrity.
I love that.
So, thank you. Yeah.
One thing I'd add, for those that aren't aware, I get incredible amount of help from the VA.
Oh,
And I don't know.
VA benefits,
Yeah,
yes.
and I don't know how many people that do qualify that don't know about it.
Or, yes, and, good, thank you. So veterans, if you're a veteran, you can get a lot of help from the Veterans Administration. Some people choose to not go that route because it's an extra set of rules and regs. But you can get less expensive medications. There's a ton of, you can get home care, social work, mental health counseling. They're doing a really nice job.
And-
Thank you.
In some places, they've gotten bad raps,
Yep.
but the Twin City area,
Pretty good.
nothing but good stuff.
Yep.
And Anoka has a great team of people at the DAV, so.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. Anyone else with either a question or a good recommendation? Paula?
A question about one of your slides that was entitled More Complex Situations.
Yep.
There was that bullet point about limited finances, and you talked about how there is a lot of help available out there. People just don't know about it. My question is each county probably different then? So for example, we live in Anoka County right now. What if you're thinking about moving, say, to Hennepin or vice versa? Which county would you get a hold of, and is there like you have to live in that county for X number of months or whatever before you might qualify for whatever assistance that other county might provide?
Okay, good question. She's asking about differences between counties. So every county is bound by the same state regs. However, the way they administer them and the quality of the people and how long you have to wait for help is really different. So Hennepin County, it's huge county. Very long waits, sometimes 3 months, to get your questions answered. Anoka's a lot faster. Like Carver's a lot faster, like Dakota's faster. But the benefits are the same. That said, counties sometimes don't acknowledge or respect each other's previous assessments, I've discovered. So same is true with states. So you might have come from Wisconsin or one of the Dakotas, and Medicare, which is a national program, might have been paying for you forever to get home care services, and you come to Minnesota and you think, well, it paid for me in North Dakota, so it should pay for me in Minnesota. And for some reason, and I don't know why, it's not the same. It's the way things are administered, state to state, not so much county to county, but there will be a wait. And just because you say you were on state public assistance in Anoka and then you move to Hennepin, they say, oh, we just make a phone call. Well, expect it to get goofed up. Yeah, it will take time.
I would bet that if you get a good realtor, he may have an idea as to what, how the county operates or how your area.
Okay, he's suggesting check with your realtor if you're, I want to make a comment about housing brokers. So you've heard of A Place for Mom. You see those ads on TV. Joan London ought to be ashamed of herself. I'm telling you. Because the way housing brokers are paid is housing providers are paying the brokers thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make referrals to those facilities that they have financial contracts with. So again, they're lovely people. We like Twin Cities Care. Lovely people, they make money when they get someone placed in a facility that they have a financial contract with. So I'm just not sure you're going to be seeing the whole list of possibilities.
You will not. I've already been through it.
Right,
So,
yeah. Caroline says, yeah, so, all right.
My experience.
Yes, thank you. This has been really fun. Good questions. Yeah, and I can